Hey everybody, it's time for a Thought of the Day video. I've kind of been away. I've been on a writing retreat, writing the rough draft for what I hope will be my first book. I'm under contract to write a book with Nav Press, and I'm pretty excited about that. So I've been away for a while. So you haven't seen any videos come popping up, but it's about time we make one. And I had this weird idea that every now and then in my Thought of the Day video, I would either talk about what I'm reading, and you've seen some of those videos where I'll talk about a book that I'm reading that I just really enjoyed and wanted to share with the world. But sometimes I had this other idea. It's going to be probably one of the worst ideas that I've had. But I thought what I'll do is I'll just pick a bookshelf in my world, and I'll just go through the bookshelf and just talk about some of the things that are on there. And I thought it would just be a fun conversation and super healthy. Because everybody's always wanting to know, like, what do you read and what can I study and how does that look like and how does it look like? So I got like 3 libraries in my house. I've got 2 different rooms with kind of 3 or 4 bookshelves apiece, and then I've got 2 bookshelves that sit here in the front room. And I'm going to start here in the front room today, and I'm going to pick one of my 2 bookshelves and go over those. And I'm going to start with this bookshelf. It's probably going to be the worst place to start. It is. I want to start here because A, it's the front room to my house. It seems like a good place to start. I'm kind of weird that way. I'm a little OCD. I like to do things that make sense and work in a progression. So we're going to start at the front of my house. And I like this bookshelf because it has what I call my favorite shelf. So there's always one shelf in my library that I kind of dedicate to my favorite books. And I know it's the one that everybody's going to want to like, ooh, Marty's favorite shelf. And basically as I add books to that shelf, I just kind of put them in order, and then books fall off the shelf and I have to put them in, I have to go file them in the appropriate place in my larger library. But this shelf always has my most favorite books in them. Now, so I want to talk about this, but I need you to know something right up front, and I need you to listen to me because I'm only going to say this once. I am not interested. Listen, are you listening? I am not interested in defending authors that I like, explaining to you why I like them. I am not doing this to answer all your questions and let you give me all your opinions about the authors. I've never seen more asinine comments than the ones that show up on YouTube. I will never figure out like why people wander around YouTube leaving the dumbest comments. So I just have I won't be engaging those. If they're too stupid, I'll just delete them. I'm not trying to start provocative conversation. I'm sure I'll post this video on Facebook, and I've seen Facebook at work. Ladies and gentlemen, I will not be talking about or letting you all debate, the place of Rob Bell in the world. We won't be doing that. We will not be doing that. I will delete your comments. I don't care how good of friends we are. I don't care how you try to rephrase the question so that I'll answer it. I'm not interested. Do you hear me? I'm not interested. I will not be doing that. Okay? Obviously, I don't think there's any author outside the Bible that I've ever agreed with every single thing that ever came out of their mouth. I don't think there's any other author outside the Bible that I've considered to be inspired, which means there's things that they write that I disagree with. I think that's the natural. Have you ever read an author that you agree with every single thing they've ever said and ever written? Really? They're perfect in their exposition of life and their sharing of wisdom. That is really, I'm being facetious here, but of course. So when you see these books on my favorite shelf, you agree with it? No, I don't agree with any author I've ever read with everything. But so let's talk about my rating system and how that works. I love Goodreads. I'm going to put my Goodreads account in the description to this video so you can go there. But I love to use that. And one of the things I love about Goodreads is I love their rating system. It's 1 to 5 stars. And I like what the stars, it's not like equally like 1 to 5 with the middle being the 3rd star. Their 5 stars are as follows. 1 star, didn't like it. 2 stars, it was okay. 3 stars, I liked it. 4 stars, I really liked it. And 5 stars it was phenomenal. It was fantastic. It was amazing. So I write a review for any books that are 4 stars and above, generally speaking. Because that means that I just really liked it and I would recommend it. for whatever reason. I don't write reviews for any books 3 stars and under because I was told when I was young, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. So I'll just not say anything at all. So that's kind of my personal rule. So all the books that are on my shelf are at least the favorite shelf is at least 4 stars or higher. Most of them will be 5 stars. Now, what is it, Marty? See, I think a lot of people are going to be like, I know Marty, he just reads all about the Bible. He studies, he loves academic work. I bet there's going to be the most academic books on this shelf. No, not really. There'll be a few. There'll be a handful. There'll be some academic books up there. But academic books often land in the 4-star category because they're like really amazing. They're great. I love. But a book for me to end up on my favorite shelf, it has to like stir my soul. Like it has to provoke me, which is why you'll find so many of these crazy authors up there that everybody thinks are heretics, because there's something about their book that stirred something in me. They said something that others weren't willing to say. And maybe they're wrong, and maybe they said it in a way that I wouldn't say it, but they said the way that it came across was unbelievably meaningful for me. That's why these books are up here. So that's wanted to share that with you because there'll be a lot of books here that shaped me. They're not deeply academic books. A lot of them are more theological, philosophical. A lot of them come from a period in my life when I was a college student, learning about theology, learning about the Bible. Like these books are also like situated in my journey at a particular point in my own journey of deconstruction and reconstruction and all those things. So these books, like, they're not just in a vacuum, they're connected to my life story in some way. And so I know that all of you are going to want to send an email and be like, well, explain how you like this author. And do you really think, like, what do you think about? Well, obviously their books are on my favorite shelf. So you do the math. Okay. But I really don't have any interest in trying to explain this author's belief about that, or that author's position on this, or do I agree with, listen, I ain't doing that. I am not responsible for answering for what another human being believes about every little aspect of theology in their life. Got it? Good. All right. So with that being said, those disclaimers, which should be super fun. Let's look at my bookshelf, huh? Let's look at this first. We're going to go over here. First bookshelf we're going to look at. We're going to try to set this up in a way. Try to set this up and make it all level and whatnot. Looking pretty good. What's up here? Anything important up here? I had a Bayma group give me a little. They were from Kokomo, Indiana. Bayma group there in Kokomo gave me a little memo, a little keepsake. It's my sister. Picture of my sister up here. That's fun. Okay. Oh, I have somebody gave me this as a gift. The Bible Project's illustrated summaries of biblical books. It's this huge book. Don't want to knock stuff over. Up here is Drops Like Stars, one of my favorites books by Rob Bell. Simply because there's not a whole lot of books out there about grieving, about lament. Let's see here. This is cool, huh? Look at this huge thing. I love it. So some of you know when the Bible Project started, they were known for these like illustrations, taking a whole Bible book and putting it on a page. And so this book is essentially, it has the whole Bible Project, like when they did that full page illustration, and then their notes. This is Haggai, this is the prophet Haggai, and their notes on that. And then you just kind of go through your Bible books. There's John. Oh yeah, and on the back page it'll show like how they came up with it. I bet if I go back I'll be on Luke. Nope, John, there you go. So there's their John page. It'll show the whole book illustrated. Some notes on John. I love this thing. It's like one of my favorite things in the whole wide world. Those of you that know the Bible Project, you know how cut from the same cloth we are. So that's cool. I'll put that down here for now. Let's see here. What else we got in our favorite shelf? So my favorite books. This would be my favorite, going all the way over here. You can't even see it. What is it? What's my favorite book on my shelf? I don't even know if this is. Is this my favorite book? Am I missing one? I loan these books out and then people don't give them back. Do you hear me? I see you. You come into my house and you say, I want to borrow that book. I'll bring it back, I promise. And the book never makes it back. Don't do that. They're my favorite books. Anyway, my favorite book as it sits on my shelf here, What We Talk About When We Talk About God, by Rob Bell. I just thought, well, I don't have to tell you what I thought. It's my favorite book. Second book, What is the Bible? Also by Rob Bell. Third book, Love Wins, by Rob Bell. Please, I'm begging you, save your comments and save your emails. Please. Okay. But that's fun. I love this stuff. How about The Shack by Young? You see, I got all the heretics up here. It's only going to get worse. You got Jesus for President by Shane Claiborne. That book rocked me when I was younger. I read that book right before I went to Israel for the first time. And that book blew my world up. It was so, and it's not going to be like, it's a provocative read. Like some of you will hate that book. But again, these were books that shaped the way I saw the world. How to Be Here by Rob Bell. All right, here we go. Donald Miller, A Million Miles in 1,000 Years, great read. Velvet Elvis, that was a life-changing read for me. Rob Bell's first book. Oh man, here's a book. The Source by James Michener. Oh man. For any student that really wants to get serious about like the historical, archaeological reality of the story of the Bible, I mean, this is hefty. How many pages we got here? 900 pages. That's a tome right there. It's historical fiction, but I don't think there was any book that helped me just understand the world of the ancient world of the Bible and the evolution of human development, biblically speaking, better than this book. So good. Another must read for me, Thomas Cahill, The Gifts of the Jews. Super good. By the way, both of these books, The Source and Cahill, are going to have just some crazy opening scenes and early chapters that talk about child sacrifice and sexual immorality. And it's anything but, it's not PG. But again, I read it from a learning standpoint, was unbelievably helpful for me to understand the idolatry of the Old Testament world. Jesus Wants to Save Christians by Rob Bell. Let's see here. Jesus Feminist by Sarah Bessey. We read that book to close out session 5. We read a portion of this to close out session 5 in the podcast. Really, really amazing. The Sabbath by Abraham Joshua Heschel. I'm just going in order right here. Prototype by Jonathan Martin. Such a good book. And then you'll see some Foreman books here, right? You get some Rabbi David Foreman here. His Genesis Parashah Companion. The Exodus You Almost Passed Over. The Queen You Thought You Knew. All of those Rabbi David Foreman. Robert Farrar Capon wrote it used to be 3 books. They put it in 1 volume called Kingdom, Grace, Judgment, about the parables. So good. 2 books by Gregory Boyle. He was a real best-selling author. People were really talking about his books. They were excellent. Excellent. Searching for Sunday by Rachel Held Evans. So good. The Universal Christ by Richard Rohr. I know. Leave all your comments to yourself. Bruce Feiler. He worked with PBS actually for a while. I think he still does maybe, but he also writes and just was raised as a secular Jew, if you want to use that language. I don't know if you do or not, but just has a really interesting perspective. The Prophets, more by Heschel. So the same guy who wrote The Sabbath, this small little book on the Sabbath, which is anything but shallow. It's very deep and profound. He also wrote this huge tome on the prophets. Kenneth Bailey, Poet and Peasant, Through Peasants' Eyes. That's a more academic book. There's an academic book. There's another academic book, In Search of Paul, by Dominic Crossan and Reed. Good book. I know everybody's going to have a problem with them too. I know, I get it. Evolving in Monkeytown by Rachel Held Evans. I think that got reprinted by a new title. Faith Unraveled? I can't remember. Myth of a Christian Nation by Boyd. A Rabbi Talks with Jesus. That is a book right there. Wow. And then The Beast That Crouches at the Door by Foreman. uh, A New Kind of Christian and the Story We Find Ourselves. A New Kind of Christian, not A New Kind of Christianity, but A New Kind of Christian by Brian McLaren. Was another book that just rocked my world early on, when I needed it, when I was a college student. And I know everybody has a problem with Brian McLaren, I get it, all right. The Story We Find Ourselves is kind of the sequel to A New Kind of Christian. Searching for God Knows What by Donald Miller. The Great Spiritual Migration by McLaren. Escaping the Beast by Michael Burns is up here on my Some of You Know Michael. How to Survive a Shipwreck by the same guy who wrote Prototype, Jonathan Martin. Wrote How to Survive a Shipwreck, really good book. The Sacred Overlap by J.R. Briggs is up here. Samson and the Pirate Monks is an interesting story about sexual addiction and sexual recovery. And kind of takes, for anybody that's been a part of 12-step recovery groups, it takes that approach, but for people that struggle with sexual addiction. The Secret Message of Jesus by Brian McLaren. A New Kind of Christianity. So this came out like a decade later, or maybe more. He wrote A New Kind of Christian early in his career, and then later he wrote another book called A New Kind of Christianity, where he talked about not just what we believe, but what we believe, which was good. And then Blue Like Jazz. It's the next book that will fall off my shelf, but it's hanging on. It's still on there. Blue Like Jazz. I know that book for anybody that was going through the church and college in the early 2000s. Man, that book was a staple of faith for so many of us. Let's go down here. Let's see what else we got here. This is my fiction shelf. You say to yourself, Marty, that's all the fiction you have? Yes, that's all the fiction I have. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of fiction. That's it. That's all my fiction. Okay? And some of this fiction is from my childhood. I actually I could say that I have the Left Behind series, because I did. I had the Left Behind series. It's actually at my parents' house, and I'm not missing it. Okay, but here we go. Let's see here. What else we got here? I got the Frank Peretti books. And you remember reading Frank Peretti? I got The Oath, The Prophet, This Present Darkness, Piercing the Darkness. I did it, guys. I did all of it. How about this one? How about non-Christian fiction? Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, right? Okay. Yeah. I read this book, Damascus Gate. That was interesting. Interesting read. The Trial of Job was an interesting fiction book. Not about necessarily the biblical character of Job, some allusions perhaps. Read these two books. I was all about the dispensational, like end time stuff when I was a kid. That's where I read like half of this fiction when I was like 13 years, like somewhere in like the 10 to 13. This is where I read all this fiction. So I have like Millennium's Eve and Millennium's Dawn. It was all about, the Left Behind stuff. I haven't read some of these. The Last Sin Eater. I haven't read that one. I don't know anything about that. Let's see, I haven't read this one yet either. Little Heathens. Okay. Let's see, some more that I haven't read. The Damnation of Theron Ware. Apparently a classic, who knew? Hunters of the Wild Beasts, yeah, I read that, okay. Screw Tape Letters. Remember, this is not my favorite shelf. This is not my favorite shelf. This is my favorite shelf. This is just my fiction, okay? Don't misunderstand me. These aren't necessarily recommendations. Let's see here. Roger Elwood, I read a lot of him. He had this series here, Without the Dawn series. Oh man, when I was like younger, probably 10 years old, the Angel Walk trilogy, oh man, that was everything for me. One of our good Bema listeners, one of my former students, who really wanted to convince me that I should read fiction, made me read The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. And I enjoyed it. I did not want to read fiction anymore when I was done. So there you go. Don't send me your fiction books. I don't like them. Let's see here. Or I like them, I just don't want to read them. And then, there's only one of them here, but this is a 4-part series by Andrew Peterson, who I love. And for kids, like if kids are into like any kind of fantasy, Harry Potter, any kinds of that stuff, Andrew Peterson wrote a 4-part series called The Wingfeather Saga. 4 books. It's so good. So good. So this is the first book. This is book number 1. on the edge of the dark sea of darkness. And they're so good that my kids keep reading them, and they're never on the shelf because my kids just kind of like keep cycling through them to read them for myself. So good. Let's see what else we have down here. That was fun. I don't think I can edit that out. We should just keep that in there, right? That's great. Who knows what that sounds like. But this is, let's see here. Let's make sure this tripod works, shall we? Let's see, what do we got down here? We've got, this is my, kind of like my psychology shelf. So I got my textbooks, my college textbooks from psychology. And then I've got all kinds of stuff, like all kinds of garbage and great stuff and everything in between. The healing dialogue and psychotherapy, biblical meditation, like there's some real crazy stuff. And then there's like a whole section here full of like personality profiles, things like strengths finders. Yeah, okay. 5 Voices, cool book. 5 Voices is a really central book for impact as an organization. We really enjoy using that one. Spiritual gift books, basic types of pastoral counseling, some books on depression. None that I would like, I don't know if I should recommend. Most of them I haven't even read. But anything that's like psychological is down here. And then down here, I know you can't really see it. Let's see if I can bend this any further. Let's see, we'll take it with me. This will be the awkward part of the video. Like when I drop the phone on the ground. Yeah, that's fun, right? Let's see, what do we got here? What do we got here? This is a section of just like weird college textbooks. American history. Oh, this is actually a cool book, Dirt to Soil. It's about regenerative agriculture by Gabe Brown. That's an interesting book. I did read that. Geology, zoology, the Illustrated Dictionary of Dinosaurs, right? More college textbook on general zoology. Here's a cool book that was sent to me by some donors, Journeys of the Messiah. It's a book full of like incredible photography. That's cool. Yeah, it's kind of an artistic, yeah, that's cool. And then like all my language study books here. So Biblical Hebraica, grammar, there's all my Hebrew. Everything else is Greek. There's some Spanish over here. My MLA handbook, that's funny. I put my MLA handbook down here. Spanish dictionary. I took 3 years of Spanish when I was in high school. And then all my Greek studies. Man, I hated Greek. Nothing screwed up my GPA more than the old Greek New Testament, huh? I'm still bitter about that. Greek and I aren't talking. And then down here, just some different, let's see what we got. We got our lexicons. We got our dictionaries. We got a couple dictionaries. Webster's dictionary. We got our Hebrew lexicons. Got Strong's. Obviously, you use all this stuff online now. Unger's Bible Dictionary. That's a resource, huh? Planet of the Bible. Plants of the Bible. Not my greatest. I wasn't a fan of that one. Have I read all these? I'm sure is what you're thinking. Not all of them. This shelf, I've probably read 2/3 of this shelf. Because I've read, obviously, all my favorite shelf. And I've read all my fiction. Well, there's those few books here I haven't read.
Here's some information.
Siri's talking to me. This video is full of like weird, awkward moments, isn't it? Well, that's fun. Anyway, so there's shelf number 1. Fun little journey we went on today, looking at the books that are in my shelf. Maybe next time we do this, I don't know when I'll do another one of these shelf videos, but we'll go over there to that shelf because there's some fun things over there. And we'll just kind of see what's on there. So again, and I don't want to come across as harsh. Don't be mad at me. I just am not interested in answering everybody's questions in the comments about why I like Rob Bell, and then I know that Brian McLaren's a heretic, and those just aren't conversations I'm interested in having. So just respect that, and if you want to know, great, there you go. I'm not really interested in answering a million questions about it, but there you go. Hope it's helpful. Hope it's you enjoy it, and you get a little window into the kind of voices that have shaped my mind. It doesn't mean I've agreed with everything they've ever said. It just means that the way that they shared thoughts helped shape some of my own consciousness. So until next time, everybody, that's your Thought of the Day video.